Well, good evening, everyone. Just Jason here. This is just Jason Keto and more. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. Hopefully, everyone's having a good week so far. We're here live on a Thursday night. I'm trying out a new camera, so hopefully, it's working all right. Hopefully, we have everyone cross your fingers for me. Make sure everything works all right for the hour here. I do have a guest with me tonight, as you may have seen from the title and the thumbnail. I have Anita from Ketogenic Woman here. I wanted to sort of hear her story about the Lion Diet and bring it to my audience here. So why don't we bring Anita up here and we'll get started with this. Hi, Anita. How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, I'm good. Hopefully, everyone can hear us all right and see us all right. I think we're doing all right here. We've got quite a few people in the live stream already, so that's good. Like I was saying in the introduction here, I asked Anita to come on and sort of introduce herself to my community kind of thing. She has been on the channel before. We did a sort of recorded interview a few months ago, so some of you may remember seeing that, but we wanted to sit down live and go over sort of what's been new in the ketovore world kind of thing. So I don't know if you want to start with sort of a basic introduction of yourself, Anita, and then we can sort of get into the topic for the evening.
Okay. All right. Well, so yeah, like Jason just mentioned, I've been on this channel before. I think it was more than a few months ago. I think you were one of the first people to ask me to come on your channel.
Oh, really?
It was before I started doing live streams as well.
Oh, okay.
And I think I was really nervous that day. I don't know. But my background is that I've been in the low carb keto community for quite some time, 10 years as a blogger. I did not have a YouTube channel, though. I started the YouTube channel 3 years ago. And it was around that time that I started to figure out all these different foods that were causing me issues. I was sort of low carb keto for a number of years, and I did lose a significant amount of weight doing that. But then I just kind of became stuck. And so that's when I started to realize I wanted to clean things up, figure out what's holding me back, get really serious about this. I was taking care of my mom at the time. She had dementia. She herself, as a senior in her 80s, was over 100 pounds overweight. And it is not easy to take care of somebody that size with dementia. And I started to see my future in her. I started to realize that, if I didn't tackle this, I mean, I had lost a lot of weight already, but I was still challenged with, my knee, waiting for a surgery. I was seeing that I was going to have mobility issues if I didn't make some changes, and so that's when I started going carnivore, and kind of took that journey of just taking out all the extra things in my diet that were causing me issues, which ended up with just being meat mostly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems, I don't know, like the more people I talk to about this, it seems a lot of people sort of go on that journey. You start to clean things up and you go low carb, and then you might get into like full blown keto. And then, then I think for myself, at least, I wind up with the keto junk foods that go along with it. And then, sometimes the easiest way to get away from stuff like that is to just clean it up. And, that's the way I'm now. It's 99% carnivore. I still allow myself things that aren't carnivore, but,
Yep.
It's definitely, I see that as a sort of common theme in the community.
Yeah.
So, So the carnivore part of your journey, and we'll get to the whole sort of topic tonight in a minute. The carnivore part, did that sort of help with the serious, like you talk about your knee, and I know I've heard your story about waiting for surgery and all that.
Yeah.
Did carnivore help that?
Absolutely. It actually helped a lot of things. I still, before I made the switch from keto to carnivore, I still had the plantar fasciitis problems with my foot. I still had the knee issue. I'll always have this knee issue, but we'll talk about how I resolve that in a minute. But so I still had a number of issues, acid reflux and things like that. Cleaning things out helped a lot with those things. Completely took away the plantar fasciitis. As a carnivore, looking for all kinds of proteins and meats to eat, I did stumble across some videos from Dr. Boz about sardines, and I thought, yeah, those omega-3s, I'm going to give it a try. And it made a huge difference with my knee. I started, I did her 3-day challenge, and then I started just adding sardines and other seafood on a regular basis. Like almost every day I had some kind of seafood for the last year. And to the point where I was able to cancel my knee surgery about a month ago. And to me, it's something I've been waiting for a long time, is to have that knee surgery, because it was going to solve, all my problems. I'd be able to go for long walks. I'd be able to do this and that. All of a sudden, I'm able to do all those things. So I might need it in 10 years, but I don't need it now.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the, I think that's the best thing about these conversations, is to emphasize what eating the proper human diet can do. We're not all in the situation where we have, upcoming surgeries that we can heal and stuff like that, but it does show how much of a difference it can make if you sort of adjust what you're eating. And like you say, I would definitely think that focusing on the omega-3s and the healthy fats would certainly help a condition like that.
Definitely. And I also eat a lot of collagen, like not a supplemental collagen, but the real stuff, right? Like I make sure that I eat those fatty meats that have all the extra collagen. And so I think a combination of that and the omega-3s in the high seafood diet that I normally eat, those have helped a lot.
Right. Cool. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good sort of start. So I guess why don't we get into the latest part of your journey here? I know I wanted to wait until you had some experience here with this lion diet, until we sat down and talked about it, so that you can give your sort of overall opinion on it and how it's working and sort of things you've found. So I guess why don't we start by sort of explaining what the lion diet is, essentially, to anyone that might not know.
Yeah, it is basically ruminant meats, and ruminants are cows, goats, bison, buffalo, deer, elk, giraffe even, but chances are I'm never going to try giraffe. But it is those animals that are basically grass eaters, the herbivores, and they have multiple stomachs to process all the plant matter that they're eating. And I like to think of it as those animals, they eat the plants so that I don't have to. And I get the nutrition and the benefits of the plants that they're eating, but I don't have to eat them myself and have all the digestive issues that I suffer with when I eat them.
Hmm.
And so on the lion diet, you have any type of ruminant meat, and that no other, like no pork, no chicken, no eggs. You know, some people have no issues with those, but uh, I see a lion diet as being kind of an elimination diet, and we can talk about that in a second. But so the other thing is no coffee, no sweeteners,
Hmm.
just water to drink, or bone broth. I drink bone broth. It is pretty simple, though. You know, you can have salt. So meat, water, salt, and the meat has to be ruminants,
Hmm.
and that's your baseline. So some people do it for 30 days. Some people do it for a couple of weeks. It's not like, for me, I don't see it as a forever thing. I'm using it just like it sound. You know, it's an elimination. I will try adding back some foods one at a time to see which ones are the ones that are still holding me back.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of the journey I'm going to be on for the next few months, just playing with, you know, those extra foods that I've now given up and seeing how I react to them.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. I know I had always thought of sort of the carnivore diet as an elimination diet. And I guess to an extent it is, but this
Hmm.
is sort of taking carnivore to the highest level, I guess. Like you are definitely, because as most people may or may not know, I guess ruminant meats, 99.99% of people can tolerate ruminant meats. Now there are people that
Yes,
are allergic to red meat, and that's, it is a thing and they can't tolerate it. But I think the idea behind this is that for the most part we can all tolerate it enough to live off of it long enough,
yes,
like you
yes,
say, and then come into it as a, okay, well, can I add that coffee back in, or any of your spices or anything, and then be able to see easily sort of
exactly.
what might be causing you trouble.
Exactly. And so maybe I should just talk about, you know, why at this point, you know, almost 3 years
Hmm.
of carnivore, you know, did I feel the need to go online. And so I guess part of it was, it was just such great news to me, to myself, that I wasn't going to have the surgery. I felt really relieved after, you know, talking to them about that. I told them about the sardines too. I don't know if they buy it, but whatever. I had to say it. I just thought, you know, I've come this far. I've done these things, and I mean, I'm 66 years old. I feel better than I did in my 20s, 30s, 40s. I can do things now that I was not able to do even at that, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Could not climb up and down ladders, could not go for long walks. Like, all these things are a huge improvement. But I still have some nagging issues, and one of them is rosacea flare-ups. I get terrible rosacea flare-ups. Normally, people don't know because I'll cover it, you know, and so it's not easy to see. I mean, you know, if you lived with me, you'd know.
Mm.
And I also, you know, I still am carrying some extra weight. You know, I want to lose 30 pounds to get to my goal weight. I am still, you know, overweight, and so that's another thing. It's just been very difficult to get those final pounds off, and you know, just lingering digestive issues. It's 90% cleared up. I'm
Hmm.
looking for the last 10%. And so I've been asking myself the question, well, you know, what if I did eliminate all those things that are known to maybe aggravate, like some people who have autoimmune conditions, they can't do dairy, they can't do egg whites, they, you know, a lot of them might have histamine issues, or they can't do pork. I mean, there's many people who do react to those ordinary everyday foods, and it's almost like a spectrum. Some people, immediately react and know right away, whereas other people, it's low level. And I could be one of those low level people where it's just accumulating. And so I thought, what if I gave those things up and see what the difference is. Coffee was something that I've tried to give up in the past, and I've never lasted this long. It's now 45 days into the Lion diet without coffee. And that's kind of, I wasn't expecting that. I thought I would really struggle with it, and I haven't really. I'm more missing things like butter. I love some eggs, but I'm going to add those things back in one at a time and see how I do. I'm not leaving them forever, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think that's a good sort of thing to make sure people understand too, is that a lot of times what we wind up doing in this sort of keto, low carb, carnivore space is that we'll do things that don't really seem fun, natural things like the Lion diet. Like I've thought about doing like a sardine fast for 3 days. I just can't bring myself to do it just yet. But, but I think that the whole thing is that what we're really trying to do is figure out what our body wants,
Yes.
Because you can get to some certain point when you clean up your diet. At least this is the way I've found it. You get to a certain point, you've cleaned up a lot of the junk out of your diet, and then, like you say, then you want to take it to the next level and find out, what else might be causing me issues. Because I've got the same lingering sort of digestive issues that I've been working on. It's getting a lot better, but it could probably get even a little bit better. So, we're always tinkering with things. So
Yeah.
I think that's good for people to know for sure.
I think it's absolutely about being on a path to better health. And over the last few years, I've learned so much about how much we don't see. I mean, we see our bodies and we think that is the problem. I heard somebody the other day describe it this way: obesity. The problem isn't obesity. The problem is malnutrition. Like for those of us that came from a standard American diet, I mean, I thought a bag of chips was an acceptable lunch. I thought that stopping at Tim Hortons in the morning, pick up the food from there, I thought that was an acceptable way to start my day. Coffee and a box of Timbits or their, whatever. I didn't know the damage that was causing, and I didn't know how good it would feel to actually be eating only food that was full of bioavailable nutrition, such as in meat. So right. It's all about the road to optimal health for me.
Yeah. And I don't know, I always think back to before I started keto, and you just don't, like, when you're not paying attention to what you're eating and you're just, I was the same way. I work on the road all the time. So for me, it was like, hey, I can just stop in, grab some chips and I didn't really drink pop or anything, but even any kind of sugary drink, and then I'd get on the way and I'd eat while I was working and everything, and never even thought about it until 20 years later, when you're like, ooh, okay, well, this isn't going to work. But I think when you're in that phase, you can't really tell from one day to the next if something you're eating is negatively impacting you. Whereas once we start cleaning it up, we can tell pretty quickly, okay, well, I had this on the weekend and it's Tuesday now, and I'm pretty sure I shouldn't be having that again. So it's amazing how quickly that can change too.
It's like when you clean your glasses, you're not wearing glass. So sometimes I'll go 3 or 4 days without cleaning my glasses, and they get gradually a little bit fuzzier and dirtier, but you don't know that until you clean them and you go, oh man, I've been walking around for 3 or 4 days, not able to see clearly. It's very similar. I think, you don't know you're in that fog until you step out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's the old saying that you don't or won't know how bad you felt until you start feeling good. Right.
Yeah.
We all feel like we go through life thinking, hey, I feel pretty good. I can do this. I can do that. But then once you actually make a real change, and then, like you say, I can, before I went keto and I was playing with my grandson, he would, I would have to stop playing after, half an hour because I couldn't keep up with the kid, but he was
Yeah.
only 2 years old. So what am I going to do for the rest of his life? Right. But now it's I look back on that. I think, like, how did I ever put up with that for so long? Right.
Yeah.
So I did see one question come in. I'm not sure if they're still here, sort of. And this was sort of one of the things I was going to ask you anyways. It said, what is one of the biggest misconceptions of the Lion diet? I don't know if there's any sort of specific things you can talk to about that.
Well, for me, what has been proven wrong is I thought that it was going to feel too restrictive, and I would have difficulty staying on it because of that. And I mean, when you think about it, because really my choices, I mean, I don't have anyone in my friend or family circles that hunt. I don't often see, things like elk or deer or moose or giraffes in the store. So beef and lamb are my choices, but there is so much variety within that I have just not been bored at all. In fact, and maybe it's helped that I did almost 3 years of carnivore first, because I'm kind of used to having all meat on my plate. And so maybe that has helped, but I honestly am just enjoying everything. I feel like I can still go quite some time. Every once in a while I go, oh, I would love some pork belly, or those eggs look good. But it just hasn't, I'm not pining for it. I'm not, there's been other times, like with the sardine challenge, for example. By the time I eat that last meal of the 3 days, I would kill for a steak, and just everybody stay out of my way. But I don't feel that way on this. I feel very calm and relaxed, and just ready for that next piece of lamb or beef.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting sort of observation. That to me, what that says is that it is signaling to your body that that's really all you need. It's like the other things turn into the nice to have things. They're not really necessary. Obviously, things like butter and eggs, I don't know if I could give them up, kind of thing.
Right,
But,
right.
But just listening to that sort of tells me that your body is saying, hey, well, we don't really need them, so I'm not going to make you crave them. And we've all gone through that with carbs too, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
It's once you cut out the processed carbs, over time, you just slowly, it doesn't really matter to you anymore. It's just getting past that part.
You lose your desire for them. You lose your taste, and I guess that's the other thing. Before coming into Lion, as a carnivore, I was still having not much sweetener. Like in the beginning, I was kind of replicating, I was doing carnivore cheesecakes and carnivore this and that. I would add some sweetener, but towards the end, before I started the Lion diet, that was pretty much gone. I had eliminated those because I could see that the more I had them, the more I wanted them. And so with Lion, in these past 45 days, I have not had any desire for anything. I mean, I sailed through Canadian Thanksgiving. I sailed through Halloween, being surrounded by other people who eat that stuff and handle that stuff and even leave it around. And I mean, one of my sons today had been eating some. He lives downstairs, but sometimes they come up here, and he accidentally left a bag on the counter, and it had a couple of cookies in it. I looked in his side. I'm like, where the heck did those come? Like, it had to be him, and it was just like put it by the door. And a few months ago, I probably would have reached in and grabbed one. But the desire is just gone. The need for it, the desire for it, I don't think about it. Everything in my head is quiet right now.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. Like, I still struggle periodically. I go through phases where you do, and a lot of, unfortunately, it's sort of a catch-22 when you're trying to make recipe videos and stuff for YouTube, and you can only do so many really healthy recipes before you add in something that it makes good for a video. But
Yes.
you wind up buying a big bag of chocolate chips or something for a recipe, and then you're like, okay, well, I used 2 tablespoons. Now what do I do with it? Right? So
yes, I know.
there's so many.
It's definitely a challenge as a creator, for sure.
Yeah,
I hear that
for sure. So I don't know. There was another sort of question. I don't know if it was. I think this M21. I think they're from your channel. I love all ruminant meats, but eating more than 8 ounces seems to put me out of ketosis. 5-1, what to do? I don't know.
I would ask about the fat on the fat content. Are you also eating fat with that 8 ounces? Because I'm eating probably now maybe more meat than I was before, and my ketones are going up. My morning ketones used to be 0.3, 0.5. And now they're always over 1, my fasting ketones in the morning. And
Right.
I'm attributing that to the fact that I'm eating pretty fatty meats.
Yeah, they're saying if they eat a fatty cut of meat like ribeye, then I typically just eat the fat that comes with the meat to be satiated and eat around 12 ounces of steak. Yeah, and I guess my sort of input in it too, like with the original question or comment was putting you out of ketosis, but what does that, like, is it just showing 0? Like, if you measure it, is it showing absolute, like, no ketones, or is it just low? Because I think that's another sort of misconception about
I think
everything,
so too.
right? It could be that
Yeah.
you're just processing the ketones a lot more efficiently nowadays, especially if you've stuck to something like a lion diet or a carnivore diet.
Yeah, and I think the other question I would have is how are you measuring the ketones and when? I mean, I know that there are people who measure them throughout the day. Well, they're going to go up and down throughout the day, no matter what you're eating. I think the most consistent way is your morning fasting ketones. They kind of are a reflection of what's happening under the surface, I think. And even Dr. Boz and some of the other doctors, they say that 0.3, 0.5 is perfectly fine. That's a perfectly good level. I mean, it means you have ketones. It's kind of like a pregnancy test. You either have ketones or you don't. And unless it's 0, I mean, if it's anything higher than 0, you have ketones. So
Right.
Sometimes what that number is not as important. It's relative. Like for me, being on Lion has raised my ketones, but I wasn't worried about my ketones when I wasn't Lion. They were always low. They were there, but they were always low. And so
Right.
it's just a relative measurement now. I'm like, okay, they're higher when I eat this way. So I'm gonna keep eating the fatty meats because I like having ketones because I think it is good for good brain health, and that's another thing I'm always concerned about.
Sure. Yeah, and you're right. It's one of those things too. Like everyone is sort of on their own journey too,
Hmm.
and I think ultimately, at least what I try and tell people is that you really should just focus on how you feel. Do you
Yeah.
have enough energy? If you're really tired and exhausted all the time, then you're probably not getting enough fat in your diet. But, if you're getting enough fat based on your macros and all that, and you feel good, you
Hmm.
know, like personally, I stopped measuring ketones. I haven't gone near a meter in 4 years.
Right.
It just doesn't matter to me anymore. Because I know like how to eat to feel good and maintain what the weight that I've lost, and not have a sore back and not have sore knees and all that. I can feel
Yeah.
that. I don't need to measure it, but again, that's all part of the individuality of it. A lot of people thrive on data, I guess, kind of
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah, and I
um
and I think you're right though. Like people shouldn't think that they need to measure their ketones.
mhm,
Some people have been successful and never measure their ketones.
mhm,
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I started doing it when I couldn't figure out why I was stuck, and
mhm,
so that's. I mean, I lost over 100 pounds not ever having measured any ketones.
mhm,
It's only been sort of as I'm pushing, towards a goal weight, and struggling.
mhm.
That's when I bought a meter and started measuring. Trying to get that data to figure things out, and it's been helpful. But
Sure.
certainly not. I never did in the beginning, and people can lose weight just fine without it.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, and I've said many times before is that there's a really easy way to sort of drop your ketone levels, and that's to stress about ketone levels,
Yeah,
because that'll do it every time, right?
definitely.
So Joe here had a question. When you're finished your lion diet, making assumptions here, what other animal meat do you plan on to add back in any order?
Yeah, really the only other, there's three things I like other than beef and lamb. I love pork belly, so that'll be on the list to test. I also enjoy once in a while eggs. Like I do like eggs and butter. Looking forward to testing those to see how I like them. But the one thing that I really want to add back in, and I don't think I'm going to react to it because it's done so well for me with my knee, is seafood.
Hmm.
I have not had any seafood. And when I started this lion diet, I did say to everybody that if my knee starts to hurt again or gives me any trouble while I'm on this lion diet, I am going to add seafood back in,
Hmm.
because my knee was kind of the number one issue that I've had over the last few years. So it hasn't. Everything's been great. I've had no difficulty. I always get more than 10,000 steps a day, and without any issues on my knee. And
Hmm.
so but I am looking forward to adding seafood back in. I miss having. I love salmon. So I miss having
Hmm.
salmon especially. So
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
the
No,
foods.
I guess that's, obviously that's the way to look at this too. Like if you're going to do such I shouldn't say drastic, but it is a very deliberate
Yep.
experiment with yourself, then you might as well be just as deliberate with the reintroductions of things. Because if you just go willy nilly and say, okay, eggs, pork belly, salmon, everything's coming back in right away, well, then you're never
Yeah.
really going to learn anything, right? So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
And seasonings are another thing because
Mm,
I used to use all I mean, you should see the seasonings I have, and pretty much they're all expired now. I'll probably have to, do a cleanse of my
mhm,
pantry and get rid of a lot of stuff. I am so used to just having salt now that I don't know what I'm going to use for, probably just will leave it at salt.
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoy the flavors of the different cuts of meat. You can't tell what they taste like with all the seasonings that I used to use. I mean, there'd be a spoonful of garlic powder and paprika and this and that and the
Mm-hmm.
other thing. You can't tell what the different cuts are almost with that. I'm
Sure.
loving just having the salt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's just another thing that the whole experiment teaches you what,
Hmm.
what you really like. That's not,
Yeah.
you can appreciate things like different cuts of meat without, like you say, I'm the same way. If I'm making steaks, well, then there's steak spices going on it. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, but yeah, I hear you on that one. We had another question here. This is Deb and OJ, Coffee Walks and Whatever. They just started keto a couple of weeks ago, I think. They've even got a Dash Mini now, I think, and
Oh,
they've
nice.
been trying to give it a try and everything. But they just had a question about the sardine fast. I don't know if they're thinking about giving it a try, but it was how
Yeah.
often you would used to do it.
So I did my first one in February of, I think it was last year. I don't know. Maybe time goes by so fast sometimes. I don't
Yeah.
know. But I did my first one. I did the 3 days, and that was enough for a few weeks. But then I tried another one, and so I just kind of did them sporadically. It's more fun if you can do them with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always enlisted people to join in with me on Facebook or whatever, and we just sort of challenge each other that way. You can do them as often as you want. Like there's no rules about any of this stuff, to be honest. Really, it's
Mm-hmm.
just whenever the need strikes. One thing that we started to do in my group is we started up an Omega Monday. So every Monday we would focus on getting more omega-3s in our diets, whether it was sardines, salmon, mackerel, herring, any of those fatty fishes will give you a good supply of omega-3s. Doesn't have to be sardines for those that don't like sardines.
Mm-hmm.
It can be any seafood. And now going into the lion diet, one of the things that I learned from Christina Mathewson, who was on my channel last week,
Mm-hmm.
was that lamb is, of all the ruminant meats, lamb has the most omega-3s in it. And so, I get them that way too.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to not sort of like I like the idea of your Omega Mondays because I think overall it gives people the opportunity to do something really good for their diet, but not sort of commit to doing
Yeah,
things because I think I don't know it seems with sort of challenges, I guess you would call them on YouTube.
yep,
I almost
yep.
feel like people get disappointed in themselves if they don't sort of carry it out, which I never want for anybody. Like,
No,
it's we all have to just do the best we can.
absolutely.
If you get to 2 days of a 3 day sardine fast and you're like, nope, not gonna finish it, then that's the way it has to be. Like a challenge is
Yeah.
should I think just to be to challenge yourself and do what you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be, and it shouldn't be another thing that you beat yourself up with,
Hmm.
because like to me, I would rather see somebody regularly add 1 or 2 cans of sardines or 1 or 2 seafood meals into their week, into their regular rotation, than get stressed out about doing a 3 day challenge. I think
Hmm.
over the long term, if you're adding 1 or 2 seafood meals a week to your, just I love having sardines as a side with a steak, for example. You
Hmm.
just add that kind of thing a couple of times a week, add some seafood. Over the long term, over a year, that is really going to help you. You're going to have really good omega-3 levels. You're going to have
Hmm.
calcium. You're going to have lots of good things. The cans of sardines have a good fat to protein ratio. It's just all win-win-win. So
Yeah,
don't
for
have to
sure.
do it for 3 days straight.
Yeah. Yeah. I think OJ's saying we have done a 3 day. Deb did 2 days. I'm feeling much better. So, yeah. So, like, you're right. I think it may, for like even the mental side of things, if you're just get into a habit of doing that 1 day a week, adding in the omega 3s, and you're right.
Yeah.
So, accumulated over a year, you're right. You're adding in a lot more than most people would have
Yeah.
in like 5 years, kind of thing. So
100%.
definitely a good idea there. Like Bonnie's saying, challenges are often hard, especially when you're also cooking for family members. Yep, yep,
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I've done, I think I did 2 weeks of straight carnivore, like strict carnivore once,
Hmm.
kind of thing. But my wife isn't keto or carnivore, so it makes it a little difficult. Like even me just being
Yeah.
keto and her not does make it difficult. It sort of
Yeah.
turns into, okay, well, we're going to make this protein and you can have whatever you want with it. And then, if we're making burgers or things like that, then I throw some eggs in on top
Yes.
or whatever. And so,
Yeah.
everybody can get by, but I can get that. What Bonnie's saying is that it makes it hard to participate in things that are a little bit sort of off the wall, kind of
Yes.
like
Yeah.
fasts, like sardine fast or even egg fasts
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that. So have you seen any? We go back to, you were talking about wanting to try and deal with some lingering issues like digestive issues and that. Have you seen any improvement over the first part of this lion diet?
Most of the improvements that I've seen are there are two things. My overall well-being and
Hmm.
calmness and clarity. That I wasn't really looking for that because I didn't know that I had some improvements to make there, which is weird. I thought I was doing pretty good, but I like how I feel. I've lost inches, so I think I'm up to 9 pounds down now,
Hmm.
and I've lost. Well, I haven't measured in a few days, but I've lost a couple inches off my waist, a couple inches off my hips and thighs,
Hmm.
and so there's some body changes happening, and I was hoping that I would have some of that, but I wasn't really looking for it or expecting it because everything is so slow now with me.
Hmm.
So I'm now 2 or 3 pounds, because I always go up and down. Like I can go up and down
Hmm.
5 pounds every other day.
Right.
5 pounds, 5 pounds down, 5 pounds. It's just it's my life. But
Hmm.
I am 2 or 3 pounds lower than my lowest weight that I've been as an adult. So I'm happy about that.
Hmm.
That is fantastic, and so I want to keep lion as kind of my baseline. Probably over the holidays, I might test some dairy, like maybe make a Christmas dessert or something like that. I mean, desserts have dairy. Let's face it. So
Sure. Yeah.
that'll be one of my tests, right? Okay, let's test this, see how it goes. I already know I did test. I went out for coffee with somebody who was in town visiting,
Hmm.
and I had a decaf with some cream in it, and I reacted badly to it. I immediately got acid reflux. My nose flared up for days, like with the redness across my face.
Hmm.
So I already know that that's probably not coming back. But or maybe I just didn't wait long enough. I have heard people say that if you do this long enough, that sometimes people who have a sensitivity to certain foods, sometimes that will heal over time. and you can start bringing these things back. So kind of hoping that might be the case with some things. But yeah, so the obvious ones like dairy and coffee and sweeteners, those will be few and far between, because I know I get reactions from them. The other ones that will be more interesting to try will be eggs, pork, and chicken. Seafood, I don't think is going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, that's like you say, it's one of those things where this kind of diet can really teach you a lot about yourself, and I guess ultimately, I think the fact that you have been able to stay away from things like coffee for the entirety of this experiment, you're done it long enough to sort of break that habit that you probably had with it to begin with. So now
was totally a habit.
Yeah. So now it would be easier to weigh that, do I want it? Am I going to feel bad, or, is it worth having it to put up with how I'm going to feel? I play that game every day of my life when I see things. So thinking, I could probably get away with eating this, but I know I'm not going to feel good. So I just forget about it. So,
yeah.
It could have been bad. It could have been bad, poor quality coffee beans and cream with additives at home. I make homemade. Yeah, it's hard to say, but
it could have been. It could have been.
Yeah.
But when I do try dairy again, Susan, I think what I have access here to cream with no additives in my area where I live. I will try it with that, and as a standalone test without the coffee. Like I'll just make something with the dairy, or even just
Sure.
I don't know what I'll make, but I will see. Then I'll know. So
yeah. The one thing I've learned in the last 6 months or so is that I can't because I've been doing the fermented food route to try and heal some issues that I've had. And I've found that one of the things I tried at first was kefir, so fermented dairy,
yes,
right? But the first one I tried was fermented cow's dairy, and no, that was not going to happen. I didn't it's just the first time I had it, the next day was not a good a good
really
result.
okay,
Right.
okay.
But I went and then I tried a sheep's milk kefir, and I was able to tolerate that no problem.
Oh,
so
interesting.
it's weird the way the human body works. I had given up dairy aside from cheese and butter kind of thing a long time ago because I knew it didn't agree with me. But it's funny how we can tolerate certain things and not others. Like for me, the fermented vegetables, that's been my game changer. It's really, really helped make a difference with my issues. But again, we're all trying to get to the same place, I think.
I think so.
We just,
and it's not going to look,
yeah, it's not going to look anything alike whatever we all do. Right. So
no.
OJ's here saying I'd have to change our channel name if they gave up coffee. So, yeah. I've been listening for a few minutes. I have no clue what a keto diet is. Anyone like teaching me in a few words? So I don't know if you have like a basic what you understand as a ketogenic diet.
Yeah, I think what I understood as a ketogenic diet was that you would eat enough fat to be in ketosis, so it would be about 65-70% fat, in that range, protein, and some low carb vegetables. That was the understanding that I came into low carb and keto with via Dr. Atkins. He was my first influence there. However, when you go online, that is where the trouble starts, because you go online and you look through Facebook or Instagram, Pinterest, whatever your thing is, TikTok, and you see all of the keto goodies. That was my downfall. There's so many keto goodies and processed foods, and people went to net carbs, and all those things I think are killers to the keto diet. So it lost what was originally a really good plan by Dr. Atkins. Stick to 20 carbs or less, from vegetables, have meat and lots of butter on it, and that was his basic plan. It's evolved into something totally different and maybe not working for everybody.
Yeah, it definitely turned into a marketable thing, like where the marketing departments out there got a hold of it and took something that's just supposed to be a whole foods,
Yes.
low carb, high fat diet. That's all it was
Yes.
ever meant to be. But you're right, and I'm just as guilty as anyone else. When I first started my
Me
YouTube
too.
channel, if you dig back through some of my videos, I have tons of review videos of Quest bars and chips
Yep.
and all this crap, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know any better at that time either. So,
Those marketers are feeding to our addictions, is what's happening. You walk into a grocery store these days, and sometimes there's an entire section and all the foods say keto on them in their natural health section or whatever. Those are the ones you want to stay away from if you're starting keto. Don't buy boxes of food that say, or bags that say keto on them.
right.
Keto is not a food. Keto is a metabolic state your body goes into when you do it properly with, those levels of fat.
Sure. Yeah. And like, there is a little bit of a caveat to when, like, I talk to people about it too. Like, I think, the biggest problem is that these foods that are marketed as keto, some of them can help a little bit in the transition away from the standard American diet, I think.
Yeah.
But the problem is that 99% of them are still made the same way that garbage is made.
Yes.
They're made to make you want to eat more.
Yes.
Right. So
they're good at that.
yeah, there is a couple of, and there even is some good keto products out there that are very popular that I still, unfortunately, at the root of them, they're just processed, highly palatable foods, that at the end of the day, as you use them, you're just going to want them more and more, kind of thing. So it is always best off to try and stick to something, I know it sounds boring, but if you could just start off with bacon and eggs and steak and, some low carb vegetables, and stick to that for 90 days or whatever to start with, then I think then down the road, if you want to add in some baked goods using some stevia or something like that, I think
so those things as a once in a while thing, it's the daily, if you find yourself eating processed keto foods every day, that's a different issue. But if you can once in a while, special occasion, make something from scratch, that preferably using stevia or whatever, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Oh, comment. Hey, wait, so bacon and eggs are part of keto? Oh, they absolutely
Yeah.
are. There's a whole there is a whole diet coined by a Dr. Ken Berry called beef, butter, bacon, and eggs.
Yeah.
And that's a protocol that's been put together by him, eat nothing but beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for 90 days or whatever it is he says, and that will reset your metabolic health if that's what you're looking to do. So yeah, all the bacon, all the eggs. I don't eat as much bacon now as I used to, but
me neither.
Eggs, I can never have enough eggs. So okay, well, I don't think we have any more questions in here, so I don't know. sort of what what the future looks like. I think we've probably more or less covered sort of what you're planning on doing, but it
Yeah,
sounds like you're just going to use this as the starting point as what you're going to do going forward.
Absolutely. I feel like this is a good baseline for me to have. And so most days of the week, I can see myself just continuing, most of my days will be lion days. And I would like to maybe have the Omega Mondays back at some point, maybe by the new year or February or something, if I introduce those back and I seem to be okay with them, which I think I will. That's really the only big changes I foresee as far as that goes in the future.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's definitely a good solid plan, and I think that's what a lot of us need is sort of a plan that we can stick to. It's like they say, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. And if you can get to that point where it turns into a habit, then it's just a lot easier to keep to.
Definitely. And I think it has to be sustainable. So, not everybody needs to do lion diet. Not everybody needs to do carnivore. If people are having the results they're looking for, they're healthier, they're off their meds, all those things, doing low carb or keto or anywhere on that proper human diet spectrum, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm just looking for those last few little issues, and that's why I'm doing it.
For sure. Yeah, I hear you there. Getting told off about not being in the Zoom calls lately. I'll try and be there tomorrow. We'll see it. Half the time it winds up, my grandkids wind up here on Friday evenings. So a lot of time that's why I miss it. But I do admit last Friday I was available, could have been there, and I just completely forgot about the Zoom calls. Right. So before we go, why don't we tell everyone sort of where they can find you? You have a YouTube channel, obviously.
Yeah, I do. It's Ketogenic Woman is the name of the YouTube channel, and on there I have recipes, and you'll even, if you search back far enough, you'll find some keto recipes where, before I was fully on board with carnivore. I do interviews. I have a recipe website called ketogenicwoman.com. Those are the two main places where you'll find more.
Right. And you've got a private Facebook group as well.
I do. I do have a private Facebook group. I actually started that Facebook group before I was keto even.
Really?
It was just it was a woman's support group, and so it has always been women only, and I kind of feel bad for that in some ways. But it is what it is. I have no issues. I have no issues with men, but that's a woman's group.
Oh yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate that. Like I think it helps. It would definitely help, to have that sort of ability. Again, I would definitely have no issue with it. So I think it's great. So yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, I don't know what's the best way. Maybe to go over to your YouTube. You probably have a link to it over there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Or email me or something. We ended up changing it to a private group, so it's not easy to find on Facebook because they're, it's so hard to keep the people out that are there to spam or scam or whatever. So we decided, okay, it was just getting too big and hard to control. So it's private.
For sure. And I'll leave links in the description of the video to Anita's channel and that, and you'll go check it out. You have live stream every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern.
7 p.m. Eastern time. Every Sunday there's a rare exception if I'm, out of town or something, but pretty much every Sunday night. Yeah.
You'll usually find me there too, hanging out. Great community over there.
And Jason, I just want to say, thank you so much for your involvement there. You're always there. You're encouraging people, answering questions. giving away stuff. Like,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. And like I say, that's part of why I'm here on YouTube. Like I like to help whoever I can. And, like when you have a live stream like yours on a Sunday night where you could have 150, 200 people there asking questions and everything. And, it's,
Hmm.
I always try to help when I can. I've tried to do the same thing at places like Dr. Barry's live streams.
Nice.
It,
Nice.
it just doesn't work there because they've usually got like 6,000 people asking them questions at any given time. But
I
um,
know it's I would hate to be one of those moderators
no,
there.
yeah, yeah, no, and your two great moderators have been here tonight too, Melissa
Yes.
and Bonnie. I definitely appreciate them coming over here and being part of this community too. So I think unless you have anything else to sort of add to it, we'll wrap things up for tonight.
Yeah, no, I
And,
thank you for inviting me. Willing to come back anytime. And
mhm.
yeah, like everybody just eat the proper human diet.
Yeah, yeah. That is about all we can really say.
Yep.
That
Yep.
pretty much covers it all off. So, okay. Well, if I can get you to hang on just a sec, I'll
You
just
bet.
sign off here and we'll be right back. Yeah. Okay, everyone. That was Anita. Hopefully, you enjoyed the conversation. I definitely enjoyed it and appreciate her being here to explain the lion diet to all of you. So, that's it for this week. We'll be back next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do a live cook along from my kitchen. And then hopefully you can join me for that. They're always fun. We'll come up with something fun to cook. So until then, keep on thriving, my friends.